Hey guys, Pascal here again, and today I want to show you my camera travel equipment. So basically everything or every valuables that I have in my bag and that I use for my complete video production. But let's watch the intro first.
My name is Pascal Basel, and in 2015 I quitted my job to escape the rat race and travel the world. While doing that, I rediscovered my old passion for filmmaking and learned to fly drones. Now I make videos of the most beautiful places in the world, be part of my adventures and learn how to make cinematic travel videos.
So, as you probably know from the intro, I'm constantly traveling. I'm basically homeless right now, and I have a location-independent video production, so I'm also filming for travel companies and so on, apart from my YouTube channel. So for me, it's pretty important to have equipment that is small, easy to use, and gives the best quality that I can get. And I want to mention that before I publish 2 videos per week right now, like one tutorial like right now on Thursday, and on Sunday I also publish a travel video or a bigger tutorial where I go outside and show you some stuff. So if you haven't done yet, then please hit the subscribe button now to don't miss out the other videos in the future. So let's start here, and I would say the first thing I want to talk about is actually the Panasonic GH5. This is the camera that I'm filming with right now, so I cannot show it directly, obviously. And this camera is just amazing, especially because of the inbuilt stabilization that perfectly works together with the optical image stabilization of the lenses, and that's incredible. And it's not just because it works together with the optical stabilization, but also because when you have a lens that is not stabilized, you still have the inbuilt stabilization, which works pretty good. So like 2 days ago, I was making videos of some orangutans outside the city here, and I had to use this 300mm equivalent zoom lens all the time. And I also used the 4K cropping feature from the GH5 that basically crops the sensor to zoom in even more. So it was actually more than 300mm zoom that I used there. And I was really able to get good footage, and this was just because of the inbuilt stabilization. So I really love that, and what's also important for me is the 4K 60p feature, because it gives me the option to slow down the footage a lot in post-production, and that also makes my videos a lot better. So definitely a lot reasons why my videos are in 4K and still look so good with slow motion and so on is definitely the GH5. Thumbs up here for Panasonic, they did a very great job there. And then also one thing that is right now on the GH5 is the Rode Filmmaker kit. You saw it probably in the video before. I can blend it in also. This is like an audio transmission and lavalier mic. You can see that here. Here's a lavalier, and here I have the sender, so that sends the audio signal to the camera right now. There is the other part of that set, and it works great. Like as you can see here right now, or can hear right now, the audio quality is just awesome. And I got that set for just around 260 euros. Bought it on Bali a year ago, and it works just great. Of course, the batteries get drained a little bit fast, I would say, so I take them out in between, but that's not so important for me. The audio quality really matters, and the price is pretty decent for what you get. You can actually stand up to 100 meters away from the camera while talking, and that is just incredible. So look at the other stuff here. So definitely one very important thing for all of my videos is the Mavic Air. It's such a good drone. As you probably know, I had the Phantom 4 Pro before. I also was flying the Mavic Pro, and I must say, like, this drone really beats everything. Like, the camera from the Phantom 4 Pro is a little bit better, definitely because of the bigger sensor, and you have 4K 60. But here I got 2.7K 60 if I need slow-mo from the drone. I mean, if I upscale it to 4K, no one really sees the difference, right? And also, it's just more portable. That's actually the reason why I switched from the Phantom 4 Pro to the Mavic Air, because of portability. I will later come to my bag that I use, and that drone makes it possible for me to use a much smaller bag, and I'm way more flexible with that. And also the camera is definitely superior to the Mavic Air, the Mavic Pro, because You get a bitrate of 100 megabits, and I can really recognize the difference when I color grade, because it happens much less that I get color artifacts when I grade the footage and so on. So it definitely makes a huge difference. Of course, I have the controller here. It's also nice because you can take out the joysticks. I really love that. It makes it even easier to pack it in your bag. Of course, I have some more batteries here for the Mavic Air. I have 3 additional batteries, so 4 batteries in total, and I'm pretty good with it. I would say, like, for most people 3 batteries would be enough, but on some days I fly the Mavic Air so much that I definitely need 1 battery more, as you probably know from my videos. And then another camera that I really love to use is the GoPro Hero 6. And I mean, if you don't have the budget, the Hero 5 is fine, it's also a good camera, but the Hero 6 really, the image quality is so amazing. I mean, not just the 4K 60 feature, of course it's good also, but especially when you shoot in a flat profile, then it brightens up the shadows, and I get so much details in the shadows on the GoPro Hero 6. It's really amazing. I love what it does. Of course, just a little quick tip here, when you shoot with a GoPro Hero 5, Hero 6, I think also Hero 4, then you should use the native white balance, because otherwise it applies its own colors more, and it makes it really crazy or hard to match the GoPro footage with other cameras like my Mavic Air and my GH5. So just a quick tip here, but the Hero 6 really beats every GoPro before. And yeah, what's the most obvious stuff here also is the Gimbal crane. I must actually say I wouldn't buy the Gimbal crane again, but that is not because the Gimbal crane is bad or something. It's a very good gimbal, and at the time where I bought it, it was probably one of the best gimbals out there. But right now with the DJI Osmo S, well, that beats everything. I mean, you can actually see the display better and get it out of the camera from the GH5. That's awesome. You have the follow focus and so on. It's pretty cool. Like, the DJI Osmo is just amazing. So if I would buy a new gimbal now, I would use the DJI Osmo. But I must also say that this year, in the past 6 months, I didn't use the Gimbal crane at all, or any other gimbal together with the GH5, simply because of the inbuilt stabilization of the GH5. The footage is already good enough, and I get like 90% of the movements that I usually do in my videos I get easily with the GH5. So I'm just too lazy then to get everything up or just carry my Gimbal crane with me, because as you've seen before, it's quite big and it also weighs a lot. So especially when I go hiking and so on, it's just too much to carry. So that's why I only use it for clients' work. So when I need to make 100% sure that every shot is great. So I mean, when I just travel and I make YouTube videos, then it's okay if I remove some more clips from that. But especially when I shoot for clients, I want to make the most out of my time, and I don't want to risk anything. So then I definitely bring my Gimbal crane with me. Of course, also small tripod here. I don't use GorillaPod, because like GorillaPod, as Casey Neistat also mentioned in one video, like the camera sometimes moved down. It's hard to attach sometimes. In my opinion, it's not that convenient, and with that gimbal, I didn't have all of that problem. And as you can see, I can actually adjust the ball head without any problems and without needing to lose it all the time. So that's awesome, and it doesn't break or something. So it's a great tripod here for daily use. You can take it everywhere. It's pretty small. You can attach it everywhere. I never had problems, so definitely a good thing. And it's also much cheaper than the GorillaPod. I think I paid around 30 euros or something. So that's my recommendation here. It's a PhotoPro UFO 2. Awesome thing. And yeah, when we're at gimbals and tripods, I also have this gimbal here. It's the Gimbal Rider M. And that's an awesome gimbal for the GoPro because, as you can see, it's much smaller than most other gimbals. So I can make a selfie stick under it or apply it to my tripod here, my PhotoPro. And yeah, it gives you a lot of flexibility because I can also put it just on the table here. And I can actually control the movement of my GoPro Hero 6 with my smartphone. So sometimes I do that to create some camera movements when I'm actually filming myself. And then in those scenes, you don't see that I actually have the smartphone in my opposite hand, like opposite from the camera, so that you cannot see that I'm actually controlling the camera still. And it looks pretty natural, like if I would really just do something else. So that's a nice thing here. And just because it's so small, it also makes it easy for me to travel with that. But I also don't use it too much, but sometimes it's definitely nice to have to get some better shots. And yeah, let's see what else I have here. Yeah, that's my vlogging mic, the Rode Video Micro. Rode, like as mentioned before, they produce awesome microphones. I really love that. And this microphone costs around 50 bucks. And it's such a good audio quality. I mean, the Video Mic Pro, I think, has a little bit better quality because it captures less sound of the surroundings, so it's definitely superior there. But this one is much smaller, so it also fits better in my bag, and the audio quality is still pretty decent, especially when the environment is not too loud, like cars around or something. But even then, you can understand me good, so it's great. And it also doesn't need batteries, so there's no excuse to don't use it. Just put it on your camera, you don't need batteries, you don't need anything, and you get good audio. So that's a really great microphone, especially for that price. And yeah, as you can see here, I broke it a little bit, so you need to be careful with carrying it like too tight in the back. You can hear it in some of my videos that is this bump, bump, bump in the background. That was before I fixed it with getting some tape. That's also what I can recommend here. Always have tape with you. It's, yeah, everyone knows that tape is awesome, right? So yeah, I can definitely recommend if you're looking for like your first vlogging microphone or something and you don't have that much budget, or you want to have something small like I want to have, then definitely get the Rode Video Mic Pro. Okay, so much for that. And then of course I also need to cut my videos, and well, just get a MacBook Pro. I had so much discussions with people asking like what notebook or computer should I get for video cutting and so on. And I mean, yes, there are definitely also good Windows laptops and computers out there, but from my experience, they're usually a bit bigger than the MacBook Pro. I mean, it's pretty thin and very small, great laptop, and it's also quite fast. I mean, I do 4K video cutting on that thing. This is the 2016 Touch Bar model, 13-inch, and well, I would say the 2017 and now I think in 2 or 3 months the 2018 models are coming. Definitely get the 2018 if you're looking for a laptop now, because there's a huge performance improvement. But even with the 2016 model, and I actually had the late 2013 before, on both laptops I'm able to cut 4K video. Like after color grading and some effects, then it becomes a bit stuttery. It's then a bit slower definitely, but it's still good enough to work with 4K footage. With 1080, I bet you wouldn't have any problems at all. And so my process, how I work with that, is that I first do all the cutting, do the transitions and sound design, and then I do all the color grading and so on, because I know like then it gets a bit slower, so that's a good process and I don't have much lagging or something in Final Cut. Of course, when you use a MacBook, I definitely recommend to use Final Cut Pro X, because as far as I know from other guys, Premiere on a MacBook doesn't work as fluid and good as Final Cut. Of course, there are people that prefer Premiere Pro, and I can understand that because it has definitely some advantages, especially with what was it, like the stabilization of Premiere Pro, I would say is superior for that kind of stabilization. You need plugins for FCPX. And also like the motion tracking or so on, if you also have After Effects, is a bit better. But like I only use Final Cut Pro X, I do everything in it. Of course I have some plugins, I use Film Convert, and I also have like Color Finale, I use Lock and Load for stabilization and so on. So it's not really done with just buying Final Cut to produce or to get the best results. But altogether with the plugins that I bought, I would say you can get away with around 500 to 600 bucks. And I mean, it's a one-time payment, so you don't pay monthly like you would do with Premiere Pro. I mean, of course, it takes like I think 2 or 3 years until you get to that point where it pays off. But for me at least, because I already know that I want to do it in the long term, it works. So if you're just at the beginning, you should probably start with some cheaper software, like you can use iMovie at first to make your first steps into filmmaking, or you can also try stuff like DaVinci Resolve. It's a bit more complicated, but especially if you want to get a bit more in-depth in color grading, then it could definitely be a good option, as it's really a tool that is used a lot by professional colorists. But I think you have in the free version the limitation that you cannot cut in 4K with DaVinci Resolve. So that is a small downside. But I mean, like for most people that start out, 1080 is totally fine. There's really not much of a difference to 4K, or 4K is not that important, I would say, especially when you're starting out. Like for me, I prefer the look of 4K, and that's why all my equipment is based on 4K, so that I have a good workflow for that. So now it's actually the third video that I record today, so my voice is already getting a bit off. So let's come to the next thing here that I also use is the iPad Pro. Yeah, I'm looking like an Apple fanboy, and it's true, but I can understand if you say that you want to buy a Windows MacBook or Windows laptop for whatever reason, but the iPad Pro, everyone says that, and it is really the case. It's the best tablet that you can get. It is a bit more expensive, but on that tablet, like videos that I do right now, tutorial videos, I actually cut them on the tablet while I'm in an airplane, in a bus, or just lying on my bed and stuff in LumaFusion. It's an app that costs, I don't know, what was it, like 18 bucks or a bit more, I'm not sure anymore, but it was really like so cheap. And the 4K video editing is completely fluid there. It's not lagging at all. Of course, you're a bit limited. I mean, like what I usually like is if I can, I like to use Film Convert, for example. I don't have that there, but I could export a lot from Film Convert and apply it there, actually do it like that. That's why my tutorial videos from the color grading look a bit similar. But the problem is there that I cannot apply two LUTs, so I cannot use one LUT for color grading from Film Convert and then another LUT for the final look, like I usually would do on Final Cut. So that's kind of a problem here, but you still have a lot of options for color grading. You have a lot of effects. You can actually do keyframe animations in LumaFusion. So it's a great tool for more simple videos without all those crazy Sam Calder-like effects or something. So it's absolutely a great tool, and if you want to produce more simple videos like I do right now, like tutorials where you're speaking into the camera, or like more easier travel videos or so on, then you should seriously think of getting an iPad Pro instead of a MacBook or something, because the workflow is awesome. It's actually like the apps for that are cheaper, and you also have a lot of good options for color grading and so on, like mentioned before. So definitely consider that and check that out. And I mean, it weighs like, I don't know, like 500 grams or something. It's that nice portable, and it's even thinner. Okay, not thinner together with the case, but the iPad itself is thinner than my MacBook, and that makes it a great device. What I also use it for is to actually transfer my footage directly after shooting, before I arrive at my hotel or so on, to the iPad Pro, and I can delete and also cut out the best scenes already from on the iPad Pro. Of course, not delete the best scenes, delete the bad scenes and cut out the best scenes, but you know what I mean, right? And it works pretty easy here. I have like this adapter here. It's a USB 3 adapter. I tried the SD card adapter before, but in a lot of footage I was just not able to transfer it with the standard Apple SD card adapter, so I brought it back. I got that one here, the USB 3, that works much better, but it has the limitation that when you have two SD cards, or like an internal storage and an SD card in your camera or your drone, like it is on the Mavic Air, and you plug it in, then it won't recognize anything. So when I transfer the footage from the GH5 to the iPad, then I take one SD card out, because I have two SD cards in the GH5. And if I would want to transfer the footage from the Mavic Air to my iPad Pro, then I would need to make sure to first save on the internal space so that I can take out the SD card. So that's only 8 GB. That's kind of a limitation. You can get around with buying a third-party SD card reader for the iPad Pro that actually worked pretty good. I had one before, but it was pretty slow. So if you're in the US right now or in Europe, then on Amazon you can definitely get some faster SD card adapters that have like third-party apps that you can install on the iPad Pro, and then you can also get all the footage on the iPad. Because like mentioned before, with the native SD card adapter and some file formats, it just said I cannot transfer that to the image app from iPad. It's really a thing that Apple should work on, but if you buy a third-party SD card reader, which is usually also cheaper, then you have a great option there. Definitely look for USB 3 connectivity, because that means that you get faster transfer speeds, and if you use USB 2 and you have to transfer like 30 gigabytes of data, well, what should I say about that? It's just too slow. But it's pretty nice because, let's say after going somewhere and filming, I'm sitting in a bus or in an airplane or whatever, and I can use the time much better to already sort out all the footage that I don't like and cut out the scenes that I want to keep from the good clips. Because like sometimes I have a 20-second long clip, but only 5 seconds are usable. I can save a lot of this space when I just cut it out, and that goes perfectly in the image app of iOS. So that's why I really love the iPad Pro to do that. And yeah, I mean, especially in an airplane and a bus, it's sometimes not that good to do high focused work like doing color correction or cutting a complete video. So sometimes you're just not focused enough, but it's always enough for mental power there to sort out some clips, right? So I think that's good to have it like there. Of course, you could also do that with your MacBook Pro, but let's be honest, the MacBook Pro, it is small, but when I'm sitting in a bus, for example, then I don't have much space in front of me, and yeah, it's just not convenient to use then my MacBook Pro. So an iPad is definitely better there. I mean, I don't need to use the keyboard. I can simply use it like that and just do everything, right? That makes it so convenient. Really love that. Of course, it's not a must, just when you have the money, it's a good addition. What I also use the iPad Pro for is as a second monitor. So when I'm cutting in Final Cut on my MacBook Pro, I use the USB-C cable to attach it to the MacBook Pro. I use the Duet app, and via that app I can make a screen sharing or like use multiple screens. Oh. I use the Duet app, and that app allows me to use my iPad Pro as a second screen for like the MacBook Pro. And so I can, for example, display the media browser of Final Cut Pro on the iPad, or I can also display the image there, like the preview. So much for the Apple products here. Yeah, I love Apple, it's true. But yeah, there are some things that are not so good. Like for example, 2016 MacBook could already support HEVC, I would say, like the new compression format for videos there. But in 2017, they already have it. So definitely get a newer one then, especially when you want to do 4K video editing for 1080, you can also choose an older model. So what else do I have here? Of course, I forgot to say that before. I have my 2 lenses here for the camera. Like, they're both pretty cheap. That lens I got for, I think, 130 bucks or something, 130 euro. And it's the Olympus 40 to 150 millimeter lens. This is a nice zoom lens. It's a zoom lens, so I obviously use it for zoom. So 150 millimeter on a Micro Four Thirds means that it's 300 millimeter equivalent to a full frame camera. And that means that I can really zoom a lot with that. And that's nice, for example, like mentioned before, when I film orangutans or birds or something, that's pretty cool. But I also use it sometimes to make shots that are a bit more macro-like, because I can get very close to insects and stuff like that. So for that kind, it's kind of a multi-purpose lens. And yeah, this is a standard kit lens, still from the G85, like the 12 to 60 millimeter. I use it for like 80 to 90% of my shots, because I have the wide angle, I can get a bit closer to the objects because it's a zoom lens. So it's like good for everyday use. And the lens that I'm using right now on the GH5 is the 25 millimeter 1.7. That's a great lens because it's a bit faster, so it captures more light. So right here I don't have any lights on, the light is just coming from the window. So I don't have too much light. With the normal lens, it would be kind of a problem. And also because of the 25 millimeter, that equals 50 millimeter on a full frame, it's good for capturing portraits and stuff. So it's actually good for videos like that. And also because of the f1.7, you get a nice bokeh effect in the background, which is also nice for portraits. So that's a perfect lens for shooting videos like that. And I usually only use it for tutorial videos like I shoot now. Okay, but of course, when doing that, when shooting videos and so on, you need to store it anywhere. and therefore I used those WD drives. It's the My Passport for Mac drive, and it has 4 terabyte. This is amazing. Like, it's really not that big, and because of USB 3 connection, it's pretty fast actually. So I can copy huge data files within in a few minutes only, and that makes it so good. I really love that drive because I don't want to carry so much drives with me, and 4 terabyte really makes a difference there. I mean, if I would buy 2 terabyte drives, for example, then at the end I would end up paying more than for this one drive. I think I paid around 160 euros or stuff like that. Actually, my brother gave it to me as a Christmas present, so I didn't pay anything, but I know what it costs. Yeah. So much for storage. I actually have one hard drive more, but I forgot to bring it here. Let's take it. So I got it here, and this is the Samsung T5. It's an SSD drive. As you can see, it's pretty small. It's much smaller than my hand. Actually, it has 512 gigabytes. Of course, it is very expensive. I think it was 280 euros or something like that. So I wouldn't recommend necessarily to buy it to really store your data, but because it's an SSD drive, it's pretty good to work on that drive actually, and it comes with USB-C connection, so USB-C to USB-C works pretty fast here, and I actually cut some of my videos directly on that drive. So the project file is there, all the videos files are on that little drive here, and it just makes it more convenient because my laptop then is not so full. I get a lot more disk space there. So really nice drive here. It's kind of expensive, but for that matter it really works pretty good. So, but how do I carry that equipment? So I have my Lowepro Protectix 350 AW here. This is a great bag, and what I love about that bag here is that you can open it here. So here's usually my drone inside. So the drone is outside, and I have something that I can move, and behind that there is my controller for the drone, so I can access my drone in a matter of like 30 seconds or so, and I don't even need to put my bag down, and that's pretty cool. Also, here's a quick access port for my camera, and I also can just put my microphone to the side. It didn't break here, it broke in another bag, so that actually works. Well, that also makes it very convenient because I have quick access to everything that I need. Also, here at the side there are those smaller pockets, and there I usually put my GoPro inside, so also my GoPro, I can access that without even having to put my bag down. And that's pretty important for me because the more convenient it gets to get access to your drone and your cameras and so on, the more shots you automatically make. Because I really remember when I had like the Manfrotto Aviator D1 bag, every time I needed to set it down. Of course, it was a great bag for the Phantom 4 Pro. It's the best bag ever for that drone. But it takes more time to set everything up and to get it. And that means automatically that I capture less shots because we're all lazy, right? And what I also have to make it even easier, I bought that here from Peak Design. It's a capture. So what you can do with that is simply to hang your camera inside here, so it actually hangs in front of my chest. And so my camera is only be accessible very quickly. Like when I see something like an eagle flying around and I don't have much time to set everything up, I can directly grab my camera and shoot within a matter of like 5 to 10 seconds. And that makes it so fast and convenient that alone this thing, it's 70 bucks. It's really expensive. And when I was in the shop buying that, I was like, okay, should I really do that? It costs so much money. But then I did it and I didn't regret it because it makes it really so convenient to use. So yeah, at the end, it's all about having quick access to everything and make it convenient for you as a traveler to capture all those moments. But of course, it's also important to know how to use all of that equipment, because otherwise your results will not look good at the end. I mean, you probably think, no, oh, this guy bought so much stuff, he had so much money to put in there. And it's basically true, but most of that money or most of that expensive stuff I actually bought because I want to shoot 4K. And you don't need to shoot 4K. Like 4K is nice, but it's not a must-have. 1080 is totally fine. And that's why, for example, instead of buying a GH5, you can easily buy a G85 from Panasonic. it's half the price, or I would say even less together with the lens. So that's awesome. You get together with the kit lens, which I'm using now on the GH5, for around $1,000, I think even less. Like when it came out, it was $1,000. So that's really good. And I mean, like mentioned before, you don't really need the Hero 6. You can also use the Hero 5, which also gives great results for 1080. Yeah, and I mean, drone, of course, yeah, get the Mavic Air. It's the best drone for travelers, I would say. So, and also when you shoot in 1080, you also don't need an expensive MacBook. Like that MacBook that I have now is with 16 gigs and so on. So yeah, it definitely costs a lot. But usually a normal MacBook for €1,500 or even less, like a used one or so on, that you can get actually under $1,000, it already does the job, especially when you shoot 1080. So at the end, really, your videos are not really about just the equipment that you use or how expensive the equipment it is. This is just something that you add on top. So look, Sam Calder, for example, of course, he also uses great equipment like the DJI Inspire 2 and something like that. But his videos are all published in 1080 and they look great and also pretty sharp. So at the end, it's not just about getting 4K resolution and pay a lot more. If you have less budget, go for 1080 really, buy a bit cheaper stuff and your videos will be amazing, especially if you learn how to use all of that equipment and bring it together in post-production. So yeah, that was like how I travel with all of that equipment. The amazing thing is really that it all fits, like everything that you see here fits into my low pro bag, and it's really not that big as you could see. And so for all of the other stuff like my clothes and so on, I have one sports bag with me from the kind, costs like €35, and I actually use both of that bags for carry-on luggage, so I save a lot of money on flights actually in the end. So yeah, at the end it kinds of does the math, so I pay a bit more for equipment, therefore I save money on flights and so on. So it's a pretty good option here, and yeah, that makes it easy and convenient to travel and produce great videos. So maybe you got some inspiration from that video on what kind of equipment you want to buy to produce travel videos. Maybe you have a next trip, or you want to become a digital nomad, or you want to go backpacking for a year or so on, then this is definitely good to take with you. Of course, what's even more important to do something like that, especially if you want to do backpacking, then don't spend too much money on equipment, please, because you want to travel as long as possible and visit a lot of nice places, right? And that's what's even more important. Even if you have only a GoPro with you and you know how to use it, then you can produce great videos of your trip, and those videos will be much better if you spend more money on the trip itself. So the equipment is really not that important. So that's for the video here. I really hope you liked it, and if yes, and if you want to have some tutorial videos about how to use all that stuff, and if you want to see some actual travel videos from me, then please hit the subscribe button now. I publish 2 videos per week, one tutorial video on Thursdays and one travel video or a bigger tutorial on Sundays. So don't miss that out, and see you in one of the next videos.